Greetings, campers! This is The World According to Yoni, and I am your host, Yoni Marten. This is not how I planned to begin my first official podcast, but the world has become a very strange place over the past couple of weeks, and instead of trying to work out the kinks in my broadcast system, and you have no idea how many kinks there are, I thought it was far more important that I get my message out. And I've even so important that I wrote it all down because I didn't want to screw this up. As I've said to many people many times, I would much prefer to be talking about topics like theater, indie film, the entertainment industry, the creative process, mental and emotional health, surviving physical and emotional abuse, human sexuality, especially of the kinky variety, all topics I'm intimately acquainted with. But with the tide of fascism not only creeping up to our shores, but threatening to overtake them, I just don't feel like I have that luxury at the moment. Now, as a startup podcast, I know I don't have a huge viewing audience or listening audience, which may be the understatement of the millennium. Most people don't know or give a flying fuck who I am. But I'm hoping between my friends, family, and those who just happen to agree with my opinions, you'll help me to get this to a broader audience, because I think it's something I have to say that's worth listening to. I am not a conspiracy theorist, per se. That's not to say I don't believe this country has been the victim of some major conspiracies. I just don't believe every single thing that happens on this planet is due to some vast conspiracy. That being said, a lifetime of involvement in political activism, liberal politics, and simply watching what's happening in front of me with the eyes of a skeptic has led me to believe there are a lot of people in this country and around the world who may not have the best interests of the people at heart, assuming some of them even have hearts, and I think you know who I'm talking about. To any sentient being, it's patently obvious that the tangerine bowl of shit who inhabits the White House, we all know he only occasionally steps foot in the Oval Office for photo ops, as well as those who bow and scrape to him or use his blatant arrogance, stupidity, and greed to profit off his actions, don't give a flying fuck about the people of this country or any other. But stepping back and looking at the havoc this COVID-19 pandemic has created around the world, and the different ways other governments are handling it as opposed to ours, has got me wondering if there isn't maybe just a little something many of us on the left have missed. Is it a conspiracy? I honestly don't know. But is the lack of action put forth by the government in fighting this virus and taking care of the American people based on complete incompetence and stupidity, which, if for this gang wouldn't be out of the line of reason? Or just possibly, could there be something else going on? This afternoon, the DNC postponed the Democratic National Convention. Now, Twitler, with the help of his criminal son-in-law, Jared, who belongs, as far as I'm concerned, in the same place as the other Jared, is already running his campaign of blatant lies and misinformation out of the White House, the People's House. This is illegal. Of course, with our current Republican Senate protecting his every illegal or traitorous move, why should we think anything will be done about this latest illegal action? We know it won't. And the American media, just as they did in 2016 with certain exceptions, is giving him a free pass to spout his every lie, reporting them as if they're based in reality or, God forbid, truth. However, even those at MSNBC, including Rachel Maddow, who I love and adore, and CNN, people who would normally call Twitler on his latest criminal move, his every criminal move, are so busy talking about COVID-19, the death toll so far, how many more people we can expect to die, that no one's talking about the tangerine turd, except to keep repeating how badly he's bungled this pandemic, something every sentient being among us already knows. Meanwhile, the Democrats not only don't have a candidate, the candidate we do end up with will end up having less time than normal to campaign, to get their message out and across to us. Since this pandemic looks like it could go on indefinitely, the normal way of campaigning, visiting states, holding town halls, shaking hands, it's probably out of the question. So what do the Democrats do? Spend more money on campaign advertising? Like I said, I'm not an everything's a conspiracy kind of guy. But this isn't just about the failings on the part of the current regime running the White House. Every move they haven't made, every lie they've told has been backed up and supported by Republican members of the House and Senate. And to me, that smacks of conspiracy. Even worse, yesterday, the religious fanatic, Twitler zealot, and criminal sitting in the Attorney General's seat asked Congress to grant his psychotic leader sweeping, quote, emergency powers, which would give him exactly what he's wanted all along, the power of a dictator, including the right to imprison people without reason and without a trial. This is in the United States of America, you know, the democracy. With all the billionaires and multinational companies who like getting corporate bailouts from the American government while paying little to nothing in taxes, funding Shitler, with Republican voter suppression. I'm sorry, I meant to say Rethuglican voter suppression. I do not like to call them Republicans any more than I like to say you-know-whose name, because neither of them fit. As I was saying, with Rethuglican voter suppression, which worked so effectively in 2016, being stepped up even more this year, and with Twitler's buddy Vlad Putin desperate to keep his puppet in office, funneling illegal campaign contributions to him, as well as hacking our very hackable voting machines, how can the Democrats possibly hope to keep up? I mean, even if the billionaires on our side, the Steyers and the Bloombergs and the Warren Buffetts and Howard Schultz's stand up, will it be enough to take down the tangerine turd? So what do? How do we save this country from the handful of madmen and women, crooks, traitors, and profiteers? How do we stop the run toward outright fascism that's overtaking this country on a daily basis? I have a thought. I haven't fleshed it out since it only occurred to me an hour or two ago, and I've rushed to get this out so people could see and hear it. But I believe, at the very least, if people on our side actually listen, and I say actually listen, because many of my fellow Democrats, whether those who consider themselves centrists or those who look at themselves as liberals and progressives, have the same ability to shut down anything they don't want to hear as much as any supporter of he who must not be named. Joe Biden was not my first or second choice to be the Democratic nominee. Neither was Bernie Sanders, who I did support in 2016 until Secretary Clinton won the nomination. But the stark reality is, unless he keels over in the next week or two, like it or not, Joe Biden is going to be the Democratic nominee for president. The huge question then becomes, who does he choose for a running mate? Does he make the same mistake I believe Secretary Clinton did by choosing a running mate even more to the right than her, thus telling the liberal, progressive wing of the party to go fuck themselves? Or does he unite the party by picking an actual progressive to run with him? I would like to insert a word of warning here. It is my belief the arrogance and ignorance of the DNC and those others running the Democratic Party, you know who you are, will cost us the election if Biden doesn't choose an actual liberal / progressive or whatever you want to call them. If our party is to have a future, it's a progressive one. If they don't get that through their heads this time round, they will split the Democratic Party in half, assuming there's any shred of democracy left in this country where a Democratic Party is actually able to exist. So, for the good of this country, I think it's time for Bernie Sanders, my friends and Bernie bros, it's time for Bernie to step aside and support Joe Biden as our nominee. And I think it's past time for Joe Biden, the DNC, and those others controlling the Democratic Party to acknowledge the progressive wing. They do so by choosing the vice presidential candidate from among the liberal progressive ranks. Personally, my first choice would be the first choice I had for presidential candidate, and that's Elizabeth Warren. However, I'm not sure the Senate can afford to lose Senator Warren, and I'm not even sure she'd accept if asked. But if not Senator Warren, I would like to propose a person who actually won the governorship of Georgia, even if it was stolen from her as the presidency was stolen from Hillary Clinton. That person is Stacey Abrams. Abrams is a smart, capable woman who would fight for progressive values while working alongside Biden. She is fully capable of standing behind progressive values while working with the more centrist part of the Democratic Party. And she could do the one thing Democrats need more than anything else, something neither Biden nor Sanders could do on their own. She could bring out the black vote in numbers no one else I can think of, save maybe Michelle Obama, who I don't think wants the job, could do. And we desperately need that enthusiasm among black Democratic voters. We can't win without them, and it's time the Democrats understood that once and for all. I believe Stacey Abrams could help bring black voters out in numbers, in droves. No amount of cheating, voter suppression, Russian assistance, or money would be able to overcome. As a matter of fact, if I were Joe Biden, I'd announce Stacey Abrams as my running mate right now. That would put an end to any conflict, in my opinion. It's my sincere belief that this country won't survive another 4 years of that blob of shit occupying the White House, especially if we don't take back the Senate and maintain the House of Representatives. The question is, are the Democrats, all the Democrats, centrists, liberals, progressives, whatever you want to call yourselves, are we all smart enough to understand that? And that is what I have to say today. Thank you.